Welcome everybody who is here. I can't see exactly how many participants we have, but I wanted to welcome everybody here tonight for our first edition of Let's Talk About It, a dialogue on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so tonight's session is pretty much geared to run 90 minutes. We may end up inside of 90 minutes, but I don't anticipate beyond 90 minutes. I respect everybody's time, and somebody said so well earlier that unfortunately this did collide with the Red Sox. We didn't anticipate, the Red Sox, and that's not a lack of hope. That's just kind of what the deal was when we tried to plan this thing. And so, give me a second, buddy. And so, as you can all see, I got my grandson sitting on my lap here, just my little guy. So he won't be here long, but almost home. This little dude can't go too long without time with grandpa. So, um, that said, if you're looking at this opening slide, it gives you a little bit of context about what we're going to try to do over the course of this monthly event. And I'll talk more about that in greater detail as we move along. Patrick. So before we get started here, I like to be really transparent in how I work with folks, in the district and in every aspect of my professional being. And I think norms are important. And so, I want you to take a minute to just take a look at the norms, and I won't like read through them, but take a minute to kind of take a look at those. As you are looking at them, if you strongly feel there's something that we should add as we move along, I would just encourage you to type it in the chat. And we won't edit it tonight, but we will take a look at those and edit, and then as we go forward, if that is something that we end up doing. But feel free to throw it in the chat. And so the agenda will include like what you see here. We'll have our fine folks from the Burlington Education Fund share a few words if they're up to it. So I know Ellen's here. I just saw her name pop up, and so we'll get to that. We've already discussed norms and agreements. In the midpoint of the agenda, we'll get to the objective and the purpose of this time and space, our why, as it were. We'll have some time and breakout where we get to kind of do some learning ourselves in a kind of an interactive activity and a kind of a small group space for us to kind of connect. And then we'll have, again, pardon the technical challenges, WebEx is a work in progress for us, where we will have a time to look at some resources and do some reflection. So I'd like to highlight our Burlington Education Foundation sponsor for really supporting us putting this event on monthly. I'd like to also highlight that you're going to hear from our special education leadership here tonight. You're going to hear from our English language learner leadership tonight, as well as our limited kind of hearing from our family community engagement leadership, as she is struggling with being a little under the weather and her voice is not quite there. But Jennifer Knight is here as well. As I said, we've got district leadership with Patrick Larkin navigating the slides for us tonight. Thank you, Patrick. And Dr. Conti is present as well. And as I said, I know we've got some school committee members in the house. And obviously, I want to thank our parents, our teachers, if any of our students were able to be present, and local community leaders and partners as well. Ellen, if you could pop yourself off and just kind of share a little bit about the Burlington Education Foundation, we appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, great. Just if anyone doesn't know, we raise money from local companies, and then we fund grants from teachers and staff members in the district. And we have events to raise money and to bring the community together. Obviously, the last couple of years have been a little crazy because of COVID, but we're hoping to get back on track this year. We'll have our trivia night in the spring and our 5K road race in May. And that's pretty much it. We, love to do stuff with the district. We like every fall to do some kind of educational event. And when we heard about this, we thought it would be a great thing to team up on. And just want to congratulate you. It looks like we have an incredible turnout tonight. So that's it.
Well,
Find us online.
thank you, Ellen. I can't thank you enough. It's been great to build a relationship with you and a partnership with you and all the great work that you do for the school district. We are grateful. So thank you for being here tonight and supporting the work that this district is doing for children. Patrick, you can go ahead. So next up at the mic is Director of Special Education, Ms. Christina Ciccolini. We're super excited to hear from her. Christina.
Hi, everyone. As Ray said, my name is Christina Ciccolini, and I'm the Director of Special Education for Burlington Public Schools. I've been working in special education for 24 years, and I've worked in elementary schools, middle schools, and at the high school level, along with being in a leadership role for the past 16 or so years. Although my lens on diversity, equity, and inclusion primarily focuses on special education, I truly believe that these students are first and foremost regular education students who learn differently. When I think about inclusivity for our students, my department and I look at how we can level the playing field for them to access their education. And this picture on my slide helps visualize what that statement means. However, this model doesn't have to address students with learning challenges. It addresses all types of people. This is how my work in special education crosses over to other departments and initiatives within the district and demonstrates how we can all work together to allow for all students to learn. And how do we do this? We focus on how we can help all students. This can't be done by the school alone. The saying, "It takes a village," has merit, and we work together. And how we work together helps dictate our students' success and feeling valued. All types of students are in our buildings, regardless of learning profile, age, race, and identity. And as a community, if we value and respect the profiles and ask ourselves, how do we make sure they are receiving an education that allows them to be the best possible self they can be, we can ensure they will leave Burlington Public Schools with a stronger sense of community and self. Meetings like this one today helps model this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Ciccolini. We appreciate you. Next up is our Director of our EL program, Director English Language Learner Education for the district, Ms. Carrie Lamprey. Carrie.
Thank you, Ray. So as Ray said, my name is Carrie Lamprey, and I'm the director of our English Learner Education pre-K program. But I'm also a member of the Burlington community, and I'm also a parent of a freshman and a senior at Burlington High School. So tonight I'm representing several perspectives. While working in the Boston Public Schools, I actually attended a professional development session here in Burlington, and then I decided after about 17 years in large urban districts that I wanted to use my experiences to support English learners within my own community. So at that point in Burlington, we were a low incidence district with only about 85 English learners, grades pre-K to 12. So I began my work as an English as a second language student at Francis Wyman, as an English as a second language teacher at Francis Wyman. And as our population of students began to grow, I transitioned to a district-wide curriculum coach in order to support our ESL curriculum development across our elementary school. And last year, this director position was created to account for the continued growth in the number of students and the increased regulatory and programmatic considerations that require significant attention. I want to share some data with you to provide a context for what we are focusing on with regards to our English learner students, families, and programs. Similar to when we work with our own students, our multilingual learners, I want to engage you all in this process with an activity to find out your current understanding of our English learner program. So I'm going to ask you to help me out with this here. I'm going to show you a piece of data like Patrick just put up there, and I'm going to ask you to consider the missing information. So if you can consider the first one that asks about English learners, I'm going to ask you to think about how many English learners do we currently have? So again, I did mention in the introduction that we had previously 86 students about 7 years ago. So 7 years later, this school year, take a guess and put it in the chat box. What do you think? Wow, see some good guesses. All right, so yep, you're all pretty close. We are actually at 235 students currently, although still counting. We have not included our pre-K students, which will get officially identified in November. So we have seen considerable growth in our numbers of students. That's about 235 is about 6.7% of our total K to 12 population. Again, not including pre-K. Second question. Of those 235 students who are currently in our English learner education program, what do you think is the major language group? So again, not English. What is our major language group other than English? I love how Holly put Espanol. I see Spanish, Gujarati, Hindi. So actually our top language within our English learner group is Spanish. But it is actually also our top language as a district as well. We have 106 Spanish speakers and out of the whole district. And in our English learner program, our top 6 languages are Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, Haitian Creole, Luganda, and then it's a tie between Gujarati and Tamil. So those are our languages. Now, number 3, what is the top country of birth for our 235 English learner students? Again, after the United States, which is the top one. Where are they coming from, our students? See, India, India. So out of just our English learner population, Guatemala is the top country of birth with 48 students from Guatemala, followed by India, then Brazil, then Haiti, then Uganda. In our district, the top country of birth other than United States is India. But amongst our English learner population, it's Guatemala right now. So number 4, in what grade is the largest number of what we consider former English learner students? And those are students who we continue to monitor, but they're students who are no longer part of our program. They've actually, we consider, graduated or reclassified. So what grade has the largest number of former English learners? So we have a lot of good guesses. It is actually 5th grade. 5th grade is our grade with the largest number of former English learners. And it's in the largest grades in general are grades 5 through 9. We have 149 students who have gone through our program and are now considered former English learners. And we continue to monitor them as they find their success in their classes. So that's a total of 300. There's a total of 384 students if we count our English learners and our former English learner students. So the last one, within our English learner population, we also consider the specific needs of our students who are new arrivals to the country or are learning English for the first time. So we consider them newcomers. What is our current population of newcomer students K to 12? Let's see, 50s, 50, 60, 40. We're actually, this year we're at 33 students, which may or may not seem like a lot of students, but again, our students are coming in at different levels of learning. And actually, we're now identifying students who may be coming from educational backgrounds that have not been as consistent as many of our students. And so we're coming in with some additional needs for additional support in developing skills that will get them up to grade level, as well as learning English. So as you can see from this data, we have a very diverse population of students with rich and varied life experiences. This is definitely a community that brings new ideas and perspectives to our classroom. The ability to speak multiple languages, navigate among cultures, share different ways of thinking, and provide a more global perspective are just some of the many assets our English learner students and their families bring to our learning community and the Burlington community at large. We can all benefit from the valuable resources our students and their families bring to our community, and at the same time ensure we uphold our mission of all students achieving success within our schools if we continue to increase collaboration with all stakeholders, teachers, administrators, school staff, and community members and partners, all of you. So the following are some of the focus areas for the school year. We're going to be looking at social, emotional, and physical health supports for our multilingual students, particularly those who have faced significant trauma. We continue to increase our family supports. We have adult ESL classes happening. We have an English Learner Parent Advisory Council in order to better incorporate our parents or caregivers' voices in their child's education. And we also are looking at supporting families who need assistance connecting with community resources. We're also looking at programmatic changes within our schools based on our changing demographics. Since we have more newcomer and SLIFE students or students who have interrupted education, we are looking for supports within by creating specific classes and curriculum. We're looking to add some more training for our teachers. And we also want to just ensure we're creating a welcoming and inclusive community for all our students. So from this session tonight, you can see we've already begun to work as a team to share responsibility for all our students. I definitely am thankful for the opportunity to have these important conversations with our district and school leaders, our teachers, nurses, office staff, technology team, students, families, and all of you to ensure we are a district that is successful not only just for my own children, but for all of our students. So thank you for your time. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the slide right there. And to add any questions in the chat box. I definitely look forward to continuing this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. That was terrific. So Jennifer Knight is our director of family and community engagement, and I'm pretty sure she wrote in the chat box, as I said earlier, she's a little under the weather and has her voice is not with us tonight in her being able to speak. So I'll just kind of read through the slide here. She is, as I said, the family and community engagement director. And there she goes. She has introduced herself in the chat, and feel free to take a look. But as you look at this slide, every day, what does this look like for our schools, our families, and our community? The word engagement. And so that's a great question that Jennifer has framed. And I would love for us as we go through this process tonight to be thoughtful about that. She's framed in here an equitable lens when it comes to supporting all students and families. And I think, again, and Jennifer will be available to talk with you via email, or you can reach out to her and talk to her about what this work means and how it's built and how we're building it together and supporting it. And always looking for feedback from our families. And again, I don't want to press her to kind of speak as she doesn't have her voice tonight, but just take a look at her background and some of her experiences. And again, feel free to reach out to her directly. So here at this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video. This video is one, it's a TED Talk. Some of you may have seen it before, and some of you may not. But for me, this video is impactful for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that I say in our work together in this district since arriving July 1 is let's seek understanding first in all that we do together in order to share responsibility. And so in order for us to do that, like we have to make a commit to seeking understanding. So Patrick, go ahead and roll The Danger of a Single Story. I think we got audio issues, Patrick, so.
My mother says that I started reading at the age of 2, although I think 4 is probably close to the truth. So I was an early reader, and what I read were British and American children's books. I was also an early writer. And when I began to write at about the age of 7, stories in pencil with crayon illustrations that my poor mother was obligated to read, I wrote exactly the kinds of stories I was reading. All my characters were white and blue-eyed. They played in the snow. They ate apples. And they talked a lot about the weather, how lovely it was that the sun had come out. Now, this despite the fact that I lived in Nigeria, I had never been outside Nigeria. We didn't have snow, we ate mangoes, and we never talked about the weather because there was no need to. My characters also drank a lot of ginger beer because the characters in the British books I read drank ginger beer. Never mind that I had no idea what ginger beer was. And for many years afterwards, I would have a desperate desire to taste ginger beer. But that is another story. What this demonstrates, I think, is how impressionable and vulnerable we are in the face of a story, particularly as children. Because all I had read were books in which characters were foreign, I had become convinced that books, by their very nature, had to have foreigners in them and had to be about things with which I could not personally identify. Now, things changed when I discovered African books. There weren't many of them available, and they weren't quite as easy to find as the foreign books. But because of writers like Chinua Achebe and Kamara Laye, I went through a mental shift in my perception of literature. I realized that people like me, girls with skin the color of chocolate, whose kinky hair could not form ponytails, could also exist in literature. I started to write about things I recognized. Now, I loved those American and British books I read. They stirred my imagination, they opened up new worlds for me. But the unintended consequence was that I did not know that people like me could exist in literature. So what the discovery of African writers did for me was this: it saved me from having a single story of what books are. I come from a conventional middle-class Nigerian family. My father was a professor. My mother was an administrator. And so we had, as was the norm, live-in domestic help who would often come from nearby rural villages. So the year I turned 8, we got a new houseboy. His name was Fide. The only thing my mother told us about him was that his family was very poor. My mother sent yams and rice and old clothes to his family. And when I didn't finish my dinner, my mother would say, "Finish your food. Don't you know people like Fide's family have nothing?" So I felt enormous pity for Fide's family. Then one Saturday, we went to his village to visit. And his mother showed us a beautifully patterned basket made of dyed raffia that his brother had made. I was startled. It had not occurred to me that anybody in his family could actually make something. All I had heard about them was how poor they were, so that it had become impossible for me to see them as anything else but poor. Their poverty was my single story of them. Years later, I thought about this when I left Nigeria to go to university in the United States. I was 19. My American roommate was shocked by me. She asked where I had learned to speak English so well and was confused when I said that Nigeria happened to have English as its official language. She asked if she could listen to what she called my tribal music and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. She assumed that I did not know how to use a stove. What struck me was this: she had felt sorry for me even before she saw me. Her default position toward me as an African was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a single story of catastrophe. In this single story, there was no possibility of Africans being similar to her in any way, no possibility of feelings more complex than pity, no possibility of a connection as human equals. I must say that before I went to the US, I didn't consciously identify as African. But in the US, whenever Africa came up, people turned to me, never mind that I knew nothing about places like Namibia. But I did come to embrace this new identity, and in many ways, I think of myself now as African, although I still get quite irritable when Africa is referred to as a country, the most recent example being my otherwise wonderful flight from Lagos 2 days ago, in which there was an announcement on the Virgin flight about their charity walk in India, Africa, and other countries. So after I had spent some years in the US as an African, I began to understand my roommate's response to me. If I had not grown up in Nigeria, and if all I knew about Africa were from popular images, I too would think that Africa was a place of beautiful landscapes, beautiful animals, and incomprehensible people fighting senseless wars, dying of poverty and AIDS, unable to speak for themselves, and waiting to be saved by a kind white foreigner. I would see Africans in the same way that I, as a child, had seen Fide's family. This single story of Africa ultimately comes, I think, from Western literature. Now, here's a quote from the writing of a London merchant called John Locke, who sailed to West Africa in 1561 and kept a fascinating account of his voyage. After referring to the Black Africans as beasts who have no houses, he writes, "They are also people without heads, having their mouths and eyes in their breasts." Now, I've laughed every time I've read this, and one must admire the imagination of John Locke. But what is important about his writing is that it represents the beginning of a tradition of telling African stories in the West, a tradition of sub-Saharan Africa as a place of negatives, of difference, of darkness, of people who, in the words of the wonderful poet Rudyard Kipling, are half devil, half child. And so I began to realize that my American roommate must have, throughout her life, seen and heard different versions of this single story. As had a professor who once told me that my novel was not authentically African. Now, I was quite willing to contend that there were a number of things wrong with the novel, that it had failed in a number of places, but I had not quite imagined that it had failed at achieving something called African authenticity. In fact, I did not know what African authenticity was. The professor told me that my characters were too much like him, an educated and middle-class man. My characters drove cars. They were not starving. Therefore, they were not authentically African. But I must quickly add that I too am just as guilty on the question of the single story. A few years ago, I visited Mexico from the US. The political climate in the US at the time was tense, and there were debates going on about immigration. And as often happens in America, immigration became synonymous with Mexicans. There were endless stories of Mexicans as people who were fleecing the healthcare system, sneaking across the border, being arrested at the border, that sort of thing. I remember walking around on my first day in Guadalajara, watching the people going to work, rolling up tortillas in the marketplace, smoking, laughing. I remember first feeling slight surprise, and then I was overwhelmed with shame. I realized that I had been so immersed in the media coverage of Mexicans that they had become one thing in my mind, the abject immigrant. I had bought into the single story of Mexicans, and I could not have been more ashamed of myself. So that is how to create a single story. Show a people as one thing, as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become. It is impossible to talk about the single story without talking about power. There is a word, an Igbo word, that I think about whenever I think about the power structures of the world, and it is Nkali. It's a noun that loosely translates to be greater than another. Like our economic and political worlds, stories too are defined by the principle of Nkali. How they are told tells them when they are told, how many stories are told, are really dependent on power. Power is the ability not just to tell the story of another person, but to make it the definitive story of that person. The Palestinian poet Mourid Barghouti writes that if you want to dispossess a people, the simplest way to do it is to tell their story and to start with secondly. Start the story with the arrows of the Native Americans and not with the arrival of the British, and you have an entirely different story. Start the story with the failure of the African state and not with the colonial creation of the African state, and you have an entirely different story. I recently spoke at a university where a student told me that it was such a shame that Nigerian men were physical abusers like the father character in my novel. I told him that I had just read a novel called American Psycho, and that it was such a shame that young Americans were serial murderers. Now, 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 obviously I said this in a fit of mild irritation, but it would never have occurred to me to think that just because I had read a novel in which a character was a serial killer, that he was somehow representative of all Americans. And now this is not because I'm a better person than that student, but because of America's cultural and economic power, I had many stories of America. I had read Kylan, Updike, and Stein and Gateskill. I did not have a single story of America. When I learned some years ago that writers were expected to have had really unhappy childhoods to be successful, I began to think about how I could invent horrible things my parents had done to me. But the truth is that I had a very happy childhood, full of laughter and love in a very close-knit family. But I also had grandfathers who died in refugee camps. My cousin, Polly, died because he could not get adequate health care. One of my closest friends, Ukuloma, died in a plane crash because our fire trucks did not have water. I grew up under repressive military governments that devalued education so that sometimes my parents were not paid their salaries. And so as a child, I saw jam disappear from the breakfast table. Then margarine disappeared. Then bread became too expensive. Then milk became rationed. And most of all, a kind of normalized political fear invaded our lives. All of these stories make me who I am. But to insist on only these negative stories is to flatten my experience and to overlook the many other stories that formed me. Single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Of course, Africa is a continent full of catastrophes. There are immense ones, such as the horrific rapes in Congo, and depressing ones, such as the fact that 5,000 people apply for one job vacancy in Nigeria. But there are other stories that are not about catastrophe. And it is very important, it is just as important to talk about them. I've always felt that it is impossible to engage properly with a place or a person without engaging with all of the stories of that place and that person. The consequence of the single story is this: it robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult. It emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar. So what if before my Mexican trip, I had followed the immigration debate from both sides, the US and the Mexican? What if my mother had told us that Fide's family was poor and hardworking? What if we had an African television network that broadcast diverse African stories all over the world? What the Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe calls a balance of stories. What if my roommate knew about my Nigerian publisher, Mukhtar Bakare, a remarkable man who left his job in a bank to follow his dream and start a publishing house? Now, the conventional wisdom was that Nigerians don't read literature. He disagreed. He felt that people who could read would read if you made literature affordable and available to them. Shortly after he published my first novel, I went to a TV station in Lagos to do an interview. And a woman who worked there as a messenger came up to me and said, "I really liked your novel. I didn't like the ending. Now you must write a sequel, and this is what will happen." And she went on to tell me what to write in the sequel. Now, I was not only charmed, I was very moved. Here was a woman, part of the ordinary masses of Nigerians who are not supposed to be readers. He had not only read the book, but she had taken ownership of it and felt justified in telling me what to write in the sequel. Now, what if my roommate knew about my friend, Fumi Yonda, a fearless woman who hosts a TV show in Lagos and is determined to tell the stories that we prefer to forget? What if my roommate knew about the heart procedure that was performed in a Lagos hospital last week? What if my roommate knew about contemporary Nigerian music, talented people singing in English and Pidgin and Igbo and Yoruba and Ijo, mixing influences from Jay-Z to Fela to Bob Marley to their grandfathers? What if my roommate knew about the female lawyer who recently went to court in Nigeria to challenge a ridiculous law that required women to get their husband's consent before renewing their passports? What if my roommate knew about Nollywood, full of innovative people making films despite great technical odds? Films so popular that they really are the best example of Nigerians consuming what they produce. What if my roommate knew about my wonderfully ambitious hair braider who has just started her own business selling hair extensions? Or about the millions of other Nigerians who start businesses and sometimes fail, but continue to nurse ambition? Every time I am home, I'm confronted with the usual sources of irritation for most Nigerians: our failed infrastructure, our failed government, but also by the incredible resilience of people who thrive despite the government rather than because of it. I teach writing workshops in Lagos every summer, and it is amazing to me how many people apply, how many people are eager to write, to tell stories. My Nigerian publisher and I have just started a nonprofit called Farafina Trust, and we have big dreams of building libraries and refurbishing libraries that already exist and providing books for state schools that don't have anything in their libraries, and also of organizing lots and lots of workshops on reading and writing for all the people who are eager to tell our many stories. Stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. The American writer Alice Walker wrote this about her southern relatives who had moved to the north, and she introduced them to a book about the southern life that they had left behind. They sat around reading the book themselves, listening to me read the book, and a kind of paradise was regained. I would like to end with this thought, that when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, we regain a kind of paradise. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So a lot to think about there. And so you'll have this as a resource at the back end of this session with us tonight for those of you that like to, see it again or share it with others. You're certainly going to be welcome to do that. But moving along here, um, I didn't feel comfortable spending a ton of time talking about me, although I don't know some of the folks here on this session tonight personally. I did think it best to kind of give kind of a context of myself through some pictures. So we'll do that, and you can certainly email me, reach to me, we can talk, and I'm happy to share, more if you have additional questions. But kind of who I am. So Patrick, if you could roll those, please. So who am I in this work? That's my family, without the little dude. So that's my daughter, was a mom, and my wife of 24 years. This is my precious girl and my little dude, Amir Prince, and Dr. Conti and Patrick have kindly, he's adopted this new name, AP. So he's a little bigger than that now. So this quote here is what I told my daughter when he came to the world. I understand that he will mirror a lot of who he will see, of how he will see himself in the world, but he will be a better man, better than me for sure. And she, of course, refutes that to her father. But that's something that I shared with her. I have a variety of different experiences in my life, and these are just some of them. I ran this camp and clinic in 4 different cities in China for about 11 summers. I also spent some time, 7 years at Benjamin Franklin Institute as the director of the college community relations, an adjunct instructor, as well as a men's basketball coach. Spent some time at the high school level in Boston as well, and some terrific experiences. These 2 young ladies I'm super proud of, both graduated from college with degrees. As I say here, terrific players, but more importantly, just fantastic people. And another reason that adds to my why. This basketball camp is one that I run pretty much every summer. COVID has interrupted us at UMass Boston, where I attended and played. But we bring coaches from Boston public schools and middle and elementary young people together to have an experience that doesn't cost them any money, where they get a chance to build relationships with other adults and with each other. And so something that I also enjoy, very proud of. Some of my experience has been in district leadership in Boston Public Schools, where I facilitated learning with adults as well as with school leaders and with district folks in a variety of ways. Work with paraprofessionals from different backgrounds and experiences as well. In the district office, this was my team. Some terrific people that I have fond memories of. We would celebrate one of my staff people's birthday on this particular day. This is a district event in Boston every year. It's called August Leadership Institute, and these were all of the educators of color that were in leadership during that time. I hid in the back in case anybody's looking for me. It's my time at a full inclusion school in Boston, and I was the director of instruction in school climate and culture. And these are some of the folks on my team. This young lady, if Patrick will pause here for a little bit, lost her mom on the first day of school during her 8th grade year at the Haley. And now she's entering her first year graduate school at Wheelock. She is incredibly resilient, and a fond memory that I have and a relationship that we continue to build on. Some of my time at the Joseph Lee with my babies. This is another young man who was a student of mine and a college player that I coached when I was at Eastern Nazarene College. And now he is the chief of community engagement for Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, Ricky Grant. Terrific young man with lots of talent. I call this person a co-conspirator, but this is Dr. Natasha Halfkenny, who is still in school leadership in Boston and was a co-leader with me at the Joseph Lee. This is our final day together, my last day at the Lee before transitioning to Burlington. And you all know that face, many of you. This is the here and now with Rosemary, who is a lifeline for me and has made my transition one that's been a soft landing. Thank you, Patrick. So here I want us to take a look at this photo and just for about 30 seconds. Take a look, and then, what comes to mind? I want you to just think to yourself what comes to mind as you look at this fish. Okay, Patrick. Now what comes to mind? And build on your thinking, right? This is an internal thing that I want you to just kind of reflect for yourself, right? What comes to mind in a situation that we see, hear, experience at first glance or at first sound? Um, and then this is internal work, right? And you don't have to share that with anybody, right? So some of the work that we will do as a district that we are already engaged in at the district and within our schools with our school leaders, and we will be engaging with our young people is inclusive of examining our own lens. And so how do we see a problem? So that fish scenario, right? Do we see a sick fish, or do we see an ecosystem that is dysfunctional? Again, this is internal work that becomes collective, not me work, but we work. How we see people living with the problem determines how we will engage and work in collaboration or in silos. And if we can reflect back on the power, the single, or the danger, the power and the danger of the single story. And then the number 3, I'm gonna tag Carrie Lamprey. You want to read number 3 for
Oh no. All right, as long as none of my Guatemalan friends are here listening and laughing at me. So it says, Dime con quién andas, te diré quién eres.
So who we surround ourselves with, the people with whom we feel safe to a degree reflect us. Intentional steps are necessary to ensure that we are seeking perspectives that can challenge our thinking. And there's some brain study that I'm sure Dr. Conti could probably speak to, that really validates this in a lot of different ways. But there's also some other more current kind of research. As I said, there's some resources that you guys will have access to kind of think about these things. The brain physically grows through challenge and stretch, expanding its ability to do more complex thinking and learning. And we want that for our children in our school district. Some other important facts we want to keep in mind, and this is a human thing, right? And we all know this to be true. Like we're all, wired to avoid threats, and we seek well-being, right? And that's human, and that's okay, right? Acknowledge it and affirming it is going to help us navigate it. We all have culture, and it shapes our worldview, and it frames our thinking. It does. And we all have biases, right? And your biases and shortcuts that the brain, facilitates for us to, that can be detrimental to others and ourselves. Some of the bias is conscious, some of it's unconscious. And we'll be doing a lot of work in this district in and around bias. And again, we welcome, our stakeholders, our families, our parents to engage in this very important work, this human work. And it's not about narratives or agendas. It's about human work. It's about self-development and growth. Patrick. So what I would like you all to do right now, right, little engagement activity here, is take the next 5 minutes, right? Grab something to write with. You don't need like a notebook, but just a sheet of paper, a little pencil or something, or type it into if you got your notes open. Take the next 5 minutes to write down your own definition of what each term means to you. So the terms I'm referring to are diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so you can do this in a number of ways. You can frame it, your response, through like what it means to you personally in your lifetime, like your life experience, or through your lens, from your job or place of employment, in any shape, form, or fashion that you like the lens that you want to use. But I want you to kind of take 5 minutes and jot down what those 3 different terms mean to you. And I got a timer on. We'll give you 3 minutes.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future in a world that's changing fast. Do play and laugh. Do win and lose. Do it all with confidence, kindness, and strength. And always do your best to remember that no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
Okay, and I realize some of you are probably processors because I am very much a processor as well, and don't feel like there's a right or a wrong or you didn't get through all three. That's okay. But in the interest of time, I want you to hold that what you did scribe for yourself, keep that close to you. And I want you to be thoughtful about, your willingness to step into a space as we go into breakout spaces and feel comfortable enough or courageous enough or brave enough to kind of share an example. When you get into the breakout space, what we would like for you to do is take a little bit at a time. We're going to try to get you into groups of 5, and keep them a little bit smaller. There'll be several groups. Your name, your connection to the district. In your group, share your reflection for each term if you're comfortable. Again, like this is about you. This is you work, and you choosing to step into the space. Um, have a discussion about your understanding of each term through your own experiences and your own reflections. And then I want you to also frame into your dialogue maybe some of what your hopes and or fears for this work is. And again, uh, be yourself, as brave as you want to be. Risk take as much as you feel comfortable risk taking, or listen, because we can often learn through listening as well. We'll encourage you to engage because, like what we do with our young people, we encourage them to engage. We know you want your children to engage. We would hope that you would model some of that. So that said, Patrick's going to get us into breakout spaces, and we're going to go for about 10 minutes. I realize that's not a ton of time, but we want you to kind of get your palate wet with this, and so Patrick is going to get you into breakout spaces. You'll find some of us in those spaces with you. Patrick,
bear with me for 1 second.
no worries, no worries. And thank you all for your grace as we navigate the technology. You've been fantastic. We appreciate you. Looks like folks are heading off into rooms. Great. No, not yet.
No, I don't know if this is gonna, we might have to, it's telling me I can only assign 2 breakout rooms.
So this is a perfect opportunity for us all to practice some adjusting on the fly, adjusting ourselves. And this is what our young people have to do day in and day out. So let's be brave and model for them. So here's what I'd ask. I think
I got it. Never mind. Hold on.
Sure.
I found it.
So people were squirming. I see people squirming like, "Oh, he's gonna call on me! No, who's gonna call on me?" You know who was catching it too was gonna be Dr. C. Look at him, he's squirming. He's like, "Oh, I was dragging him right into traffic, baby, right into traffic with all the cars coming."
We're gonna. So you want to double check the time, and you said 10 minutes, right? And breakout.
Yes, we're gonna go about 10 minutes.
All right. I just see how we do. Here we go.
All right, let's try it.
Start breakout sessions.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
If you're a parent, you've done it all this past year. But the one thing you may not have done is take care of yourself. At Boys Town, we know that a parent's mental health is important too. Visit boystown.org/stressedOut for great self-care tips for parents. You can even download an ebook to guide you and your family through self-care strategies. Because healthy parents are key to happy families.
I know, I already know. Y'all don't beat me up. I already know, right? Wait, Ray, we were in the middle of a deep conversation.
Too soon.
Fuck on us. Um, I knew it would be short. I really am trying to be really thoughtful about folks in your time. So please, I know that was quick. I can promise you we will be doing a lot more of that as we go forward in this work. But before we go too much time with me babbling, anybody feeling comfortable enough to share back one, Patrick? Well, leave it there, Patrick. You're good. Anybody want to share just anything that resonated when you rap with your group of folks? Just unmute yourself and fly.
I'll go, Ray.
Okay.
We had a really good discussion in our group. I don't want to put Shannon on the spot, but hi, Shannon. I love the analogy that she gave, the description that one of her professors gave her for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I would love it if she could share that out because I don't want to mess it up.
Come on, Shannon. Come on. Step into this brave space. Come on, you got this. We got you. You got this. Come on.
I love you, Shannon.
Thank you. I just shared something that I learned through Burlington Public Schools PD, and then again in one of the classes I was taking, Khalees Warnham described diversity as being invited to the party, as equity is having access to get there, transportation, and feeling welcome at the party, and inclusion is reframing the party, being invited to plan it. And that's just an analogy that I go to often, thinking about inclusion as action and not like a passive, just we're not excluding, we're actively including.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate you. Come on, let's keep the brave space going. We got time for a couple more. Come on. Y'all got this.
What do they mean to you, Ray?
Listen, you got a whole year to get with me. Like I want to hear from you guys. I'm a student here. I'm trying to learn. Somebody, come on, somebody share with us.
I'll put one out there that I didn't hear. So one that I didn't get a chance to say is one of the complexities, I think, of and we're obviously not going to figure this out, but one of the complexities of the whole diversity aspect of it and feeling the inclusion. I think one of it is really from cross-generational within people's own families. I for one, I'm a first-generation American, and you get a lot of these, cultures where, like, how do you bridge that gap with your own family when you can't like, if you can't solve that and the own acceptance within your own family, like, how can you resolve that at school? And I feel that that's kind of a really hard area. That's the toughest area, I think. But
Thank you, Sam. That's brave space that you stepped into. So let me say first and foremost, thank you, and I appreciate you. That's an ongoing process that I would just say we rely on others, right? And we keep trying to navigate and steer our ship forward, and we stay resilient and we stay with the process of self-growth. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? We got time for one more. Come on. Y'all got this.
I'll throw one in then. I'll just say that one thing I thought was pretty remarkable about our breakout room is that pretty much everyone in the room was coming into the space already very committed and already having leadership roles either in their organizations or in our public life here in Burlington, stepping up for these issues. So it really spoke to me to the commitment of this community to be a part of the solution. So I thought I'd just add that.
Beautiful. Barbara, thank you so much. Thank you. That's powerful. So here's what I'll tell you folks. If there are other things that resonate, please feel free to type it in the chat. We'll be able to kind of look at the chat and and pull the the notes from the chat. So if you're not comfortable speaking out, go ahead and take the next minute or so and type again, hopes, fears, concerns, questions. Please fire into the chat. Take the next minute or so and go ahead and do that.
Would you mind if I just monopolize a little bit of time here?
Go for it. Go for it.
This is really a question or a statement for the families, the parents that are online today. What are we doing at home to teach our kids the concepts and the benefits of diversity and inclusion and equity? I would love to understand that, because as we're having this conversation as adults, I think it's great. And I think we have the mental capacity to really understand it, but I'm wondering how that gets transferred to our children.
Phenomenal question. Thank you for asking it. And folks can chime in here if you feel comfortable, but fire that response into the chat if you have one. I love the question. Powerful question. I'm happy to respond in terms of what I've done as a parent. For me, it was always about, because I think we do this, right? We pull context from our own lived experiences, and for me, I always tried to create as many conditions as I could as a dad, for my daughter to have lots of different experiences, and I think the power in that was her exposure, right, level, created more questions for us. So for my wife and I, we had to field a lot of questions. I think about when I learned how to take a ground ball, like I was doing that a lot, and at times it was very challenging. But as I look at like who she's become today as a human being, I know that if I'm not here, that she can navigate the world, and she can navigate difference, and she'll strive to seek understanding with folks that she comes in contact with. So I think that there's some pluses and some bumps and some turbulence with that approach, but I think for me, that's what me and my wife, that's what we try to do, and everybody's different, but I'm that's what I could share. So thank you. That's an amazing question, and this the power of this collective. Like folks bringing thoughts, ideas, questions. This is a we work, not a me work. This is a we work. So that question is in line with that thinking. So thank you. Given that it's 8:20, I'm gonna fast forward us ahead. But again, you guys have access to me, to our leadership. You can email, reach out. Please don't feel hesitant. There's no crazy question. There's nothing. If you think differently, please bring that, because that's important. There's power in difference, right? As long as we're seeking understanding, we don't always have to have agreement, but we can always understand or try to understand another, right? So here are some resources, and I'm going to make sure we've got everybody's email. We'll make sure we email these resources to all of you. That will happen. So one is an activity called the Cast of Characters, and I'm happy to report that the senior leadership team in Burlington. This activity is from some of my research, that we partook in this activity, and I think at the district level too, and we gleaned a lot around our own levels of awareness, which is essential in this work. The next one is on Courageous Conversations. It's a video link, and again, you'll get these. I had somebody in my group who wanted to get some insight on that. There's lots of other resources as well, but this video is powerful, so you'll get that in an email as well. You all got a chance to see and hear the danger of the single story. You'll get that link as well. And Patrick, if you could just pop on to the DEI reading resource, that would be huge. So here is a library of resource information that I've collected over several years, that I've, past and current, that I've found is incredibly useful. And, some of these, you'll get all of these pieces. And we will be pulling from a lot of this as we go through this experience. We'll potpourri in some learning opportunities and some dialogue as we did here tonight. We will also spend some time, unpacking implicit and explicit bias, as well as the 7 forms of bias. We'll dabble a little into what race is as a social construct. We won't be doing PhD level work on this, but we will explore enough for us to have strong conversation and hopefully some learning opportunities. I'll talk a little bit about culturally responsive teaching and learning. And so that CRT is not critical race theory, but culturally responsive teaching as a pedagogy. And, we'll explore some of that as well. And so there's just lots of cool materials here. Let me name this. When we learn, we're seeking to be learners. And when we're learners, we're always asking questions and not formulating statements. That is how I work in this district. That is how I work with our educators. It is something that I think is important because we frame our learning, and our levels of awareness drive that learning. So I'm hopeful that we all can explore together, learn together, be critically conscious together, ask difficult questions, respect the topics and the people who those topics impact, and grow together, solutions and problem solve together, not just problem pose, because those things are easy to do. Anybody can point at a problem. It doesn't require a high level of knowledge or skill to do that, or resilience either, for that matter. So my hopes are some of those. And so before we close out tonight, I'm going to take the link here, and I'm going to toss it in the chat. And if everybody would do me the kindness of completing the feedback form before you log off for the evening, I would be forever in your debt. We are big fans in this district of trying to be mindful of the importance of feedback. And, we need you to give it in order for us to use it, and to learn from it. So please, please, please take a minute and do the feedback for us before we close for the evening. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to working with your children, with our partners in this district. I have a great love for this work. It's my way of being able to leave a mark that hopefully makes a little bit better than what is, and I'm very passionate about this work. So please complete the feedback, and thank you again so much for everybody being here tonight. We are humbled and grateful to have you in our presence. And I'm gonna hang on here for a little bit. If folks have specific questions, I'll hang out and rap with folks if they feel compelled. Really don't mind.
Quick, before you do that, there you need permission to access the form, and
Okay.
only the owner needs to give that.
I got you. I got you. That's me. I got you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
You.
Okay, you should try it now. I just refreshed it. You should be good.
Okay. Well, just so you know, everybody should go scroll up to Raymond's message, because if you got you need permission, if you refresh that, that's just going to refresh the restricted page. So you have to go up and copy that docs.google link again from his chat.
And I'm gonna shoot these out in an email as well for folks also.
I just got into the form, so I think it's available now.
Terrific. I did refresh it, so we'll send this out in an email as well, for the folks that didn't get a chance to do it or didn't have access. So, but as I said, if anybody is wanting to hang out and chat or has questions pressing, feel free. I'll hang here for a bit, and I'm happy to rap with you if you feel compelled.
Hey, Ray, simple question, I think. Do you have a schedule yet for like visiting the schools? Yet?
Yes, I have a schedule. So how it works is I'm 2 weeks in schools and then 1 week back at central office. What school are you at?
I'm at Fox Hill.
Your children. Okay. So Fox Hill, Rosemary, you still here? She knows my schedule better than I do. So that's why I'm hollering for Rosemary. But let me shoot me an email and I will be able to tell you exactly what date. Oh, Rosemary's still here. When am I at Fox Hill, Rosemary? Sorry, I got multiple windows open. See, when I tell you I rely on her. Woo!
Thanks, Rosemary.
She's
I
gonna
saw
send
that.
you an email.
All right.
Terrific, terrific. Thank you for asking. Yep, but I plan on getting through our district at least twice, if the good Lord helps me with the
Us at Fox Hill, we'll do our part.
Well, I'm looking forward to just getting to know staff and children and families, and that's the drill. So, oh, we still got some people unable to get in. I will put in the chat here. I will email.
Okay.
Any other questions, or comments, or sharing, or wonderings? I can't promise I got an answer, but I'm happy to field it and to hear.
Ray, I just want to introduce myself while I'm still here since most people are gone. Hi, I'm Nikki Cadillac. My kids go to Fox Hill. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Patrick. I'm also on bar in the BEC, so I sort of hear your name ancillarily when we have conversations about equity in the schools, but nice to kind of meet you.
Oh, well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for stepping in and introducing yourself. To have a face to put with the name. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm sure
looking
I'll see you around.
Yeah, I'll be at your school, so I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
You too. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ray. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Pleasure's mine.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, Raymond. My name is Rob. Just wanted to say a quick hello. I got to listen in on a bunch, and I'm excited about the direction that you're taking here. Is there going to be another virtual meeting where we all get together?
Yes, and I will get that. I want to make sure I navigate the schedule. This will be monthly from between now and June, so we will be getting that out. It'll be also posted on the website as we continue to get our arms wrapped around updating our website.
Okay.
And we will get it out to you. We have your email, so you'll definitely get an email on the remainder of the year as we pull that schedule together here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. From personal experience, just in participating in workshops recently, virtually, I find breakout rooms to be really a great place for learning and expanded conversation. So I look forward to sort of longer breakout sessions because I feel smaller groups sort of foster greater conversation, and it just takes it to kind of another level, maybe a deeper level. So.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm with you, and we will absolutely do that moving forward for sure.
Awesome.
So thank you for sharing that feedback. We're with you. We're with you. We'll make sure that happens.
Great. Okay. Looking forward to all this. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Ray. I have a question for you. For those of us who weren't lucky enough to get on the diversity committee from the community because they only took 2 people, will there be, for those of us who are really interested and involved and care, will there be a way for us to be involved if we're not on the school diversity, the DEI committee, or the town DEI committee, but still want to help?
Oh, sure. So I love that question. So the short answer is yes. And so what I would say to you is contextualize what you mean when you say help, right? So this work is going to require us to all be helpful in a variety of different ways. In terms of the direct work that this district is doing, there will be opportunities. I can't assure we'll have 100 people like we had on this call that will all be hands in on the work that we're doing, but we will certainly invite on multiple fronts as this work gets unpacked and we begin to dive a little bit deeper post our district audit. So there will be opportunities. We will be thorough in informing and sharing. We will try to do our very best to make sure we do that well. Um, and so yeah, there'll be opportunities. We welcome, like perspectives, and there'll be a lot of ways in which that help shows up and is framed. So more to come on that. So for sure. But like I just would say, contextualize what help can be, what the potential of help. Sometimes we think of help as I got to be, in this space at this particular point in time. This work is going to need a variety of levels of help. And so we'll unpack that and I'll share that and you and I can talk more about that as we move along here. But the short answer is yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sure. Hey, Miss Simon, how are you? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
delighted that we had this conversation, and I feel like there's so many people who've offered a lot tonight and who I'm delighted will be in this work together with the district, and we'll keep doing whatever we can. So I'm just, and the question earlier, I don't know if people, I wrote in the question, we're going to have these conversations monthly is the plan, right?
That's correct. And a schedule is going to be coming out here in the next week and some change. We'll have the rest of the year mapped out on the calendar and invites and such. So absolutely.
So it's really exciting to me that we're at this at this point in the process of having people work together on these issues. Thank you.
Well, you can't do it well without working together. Like as Dr. Conti would say, that's a necessity. I think there's a misnomer at times that we do this work in buckets. No. This is we work, not me work. This is we work. So absolutely. But I'm glad you were able to be here tonight and be present with us. So thank you for carving out the time to do that.
I've heard the BAR and the BEC referenced a few times tonight. We're kind of newish to the area, new to the school district. I'm just wondering if these are organizations that are specifically affiliated with the Burlington Public Schools or what the relationship is.
So I think we still have some folks here from BAR. I see a couple of people. You want to go ahead and take that one?
Is Martha Duffield still here?
Martha's off the line. I'm Shafan Wan. Hey, pleased to meet everyone here. I'm a parent in the district. I have a son at Francis Wyman. I'm also a town meeting member for Precinct 4, and I'm also a member of Burlington Against Racism. So neither of these organizations is affiliated formally with the school district. These are organizations that were recently started by members of the community who definitely thought there was a need to make sure that we could have a space so that we could advance topics related to anti-racism, which is what BAR stands for, Burlington Against Racism, and also the Burlington Equity Coalition, which represents an array of organizations that are really focused on how can we be more inviting to the table in a proactive and active way. There are websites for these respective organizations and also Facebook groups. So I can clearly put that in the chat for anyone who's interested to know more. Pleased to meet you all.
Thank you, Shafan. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's good to see you. Thank you for carving out the time. We appreciate you.
Guys, I'm going to sign off, but I'm just going to say I knew I moved into the right neighborhood. This is the coolest. Thank you so much for all your work. This is
Sam, thank you for being here. Looking forward to seeing you and getting to know you more and talking with you. So thank you for being present tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. We should all get together in person eventually. This is we feed off each other, and it's great that we could do it virtually. But doing it in person, I think, will sort of really strengthen the bonds we are developing here in town.
That's my great hope. That's my great, listen, you speak it to my heart on that one. I want to see where this thing goes in terms of like being able to do some of that. You know, this is work that I've done before, and we were able to do it in person. And to your point, it's powerful. You
Yep.
know, when folks can see each other um, as people, right, as humans in this life, you know, navigating this world with the challenges that we all face together. Um, it stirs up your hope and it challenges your thinking to be solutions oriented. So I agree, in person allows us to do that in a dynamic way, and I'm hopeful that we can get to that at some point. So those thoughts are in my head as well. So thank you for naming that. I appreciate it.
I think Lily, I think you're on mute if you're talking, Lily.
Yes, I was. Thank you. And I was talking just to explain that I have been hanging on so long because I couldn't find the tab to close the meeting. So I didn't have anything specific to say other than thank you. It's really exciting to be a part of the work in the district, and we're excited to have you here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lily. I appreciate that. Hey, Catherine, how are you? I'm just seeing your picture pop up there. Appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
I'm fine. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because in my breakout meeting, my mic didn't work at all. So I was like this frustrated the whole time because I couldn't say a word. But I'm so pleased to be a part of this, and thank you for holding this. And I'm looking forward to all the future meetings as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I don't want to hold folks any longer. If there's any other final closing thoughts, questions, please reach out, send me an email. You know, reach me through Rosemary. Schedule some time if you wanna keep it up, rap, talk about things, questions, concerns, feelings, emotions, whatever it might be. I welcome you uh, with open arms and open heart and open mind. So feel free to reach out. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a terrific night. And to my team, thank you. I appreciate you. Y'all rocked it. Y'all did the thing tonight. I love and appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.